Good afternoon, everyone. Um, our case study was on a small town here in Namibia, called Phiri. Um, it started last year and coming to an end this year. We're sort of wrapping up with the paper as we speak. The case study was titled the cost effectiveness of alternative options to address housing needs, a natural experiment in Phiri, Namibia. So the structure of my presentation is I'm just going to give you an overview of the four projects that we looked at, our findings and the analysis as well. So in sub-Saharan Africa, 56% of the urban population lives in informal settlements. This reflects the reality that formal housing is not accessible and what is available is not affordable. The housing crisis in the global south is considerable, and this is particularly true to low-income households. Efforts, evidently, have been to make the housing market better through measures to incentivize private sector to provide low-cost dwelling and seek to scale up access to housing finance. However, formal housing remains unaffordable and inaccessible. As interest rates remain high in many countries, formal loans require formal jobs, and the state support has been very limited. Lack of effective state housing strategy leads leads to growth of informal settlements for low-income households and the outskirts of towns and cities. In 2020, 42% of Africa's urban population lived in towns with less than 300,000 inhabitants. In Namibia, an estimated 80% of urban population lives in informal dwellings. And Caribbean, like many cities in Africa, is experiencing rapid urban growth and increasing informal urbanization. Some of the questions that we tried to answer using this research were, what are the costs of providing housing that is affordable to lowest income households? What are the subsidies that are required to addressing housing needs? What might housing subsidies exacerbate inequitable housing provision? So as I mentioned earlier, we looked at 4 projects to try and answer these 3 questions above. And our key objective was to analyze the effectiveness of different modalities in providing housing to those who need. So just a bit on the natural experiment. Caribbean is a small town in West Namibia with a population of just over 5,000 people. Caribbean is what is considered a mining town, and the expansion of mining has encouraged in-migration. The local authorities, the local council is committed to addressing housing needs, but in terms of housing provision, the town is still divided by the apartheid planning regime. The 4 projects that we considered for this case study were NHE, which is state-owned, Namibia Housing Enterprise, Development Workshop, a non-governmental organization, SDFN, Shack Dwellers Federation of Namibia, and USAB Informal Settlement, which are community-led. The 4 examples in summary, we have one formal housing construction effort, one oriented to the provision of service sites, and the final 2, SDFN and USAB Informal Settlement, are community-led. All 4 cases, however, were noted to have received support from the state directly or indirectly. So this is just a layout of the projects where they're located in Caribbean, you will notice that USAB informal settlement is close to NHE. Right next to NHE, there's an arrow. Isn't working. But that's just a core 5 house. The arrow that's pointing to NHE, that's the one that we considered for the project, as well as one of the finished houses in SDFN, the arrow in extension 8. The first project that we considered, NHE. NHE is a state-owned company serving as both a lending institution and a developer in the field of affordable housing. The target category comprises households earning more than 5,000 Namibian dollars per month, but less than 20,000. So this is about 283 US dollars to about 1,132 US dollars per month, or a maximum joint income of 30,000 Namibian dollars per month. NHE provides market-related housing to ensure bankability with commercial financing, with commercial financial institutions. They have a monthly repayment affordable only to the upper 2 deciles of Namibia's socioeconomic structure. Those whose 30% of the monthly income is 3,581 Namibian dollars or more, which is about 200 US dollars. The core 5 house, as I earlier mentioned, is the one that we considered for this case study, and this is NHE's cheapest 2-bedroom house, costing 227,480 Namibian dollars to build. The cost of the service plot is an additional 28,159. This is a projected value. The cost that was reported was 20,000. That's how much they sold the plot for in 2014 to 2015, and this cost was adjusted for inflation to 2020-2021 cost, making the total cost of 265,307 Namibian dollars. The second project, which is Development Workshop Namibia, located in Extension 6. Development Workshop is an NGO that focuses on sustainable urban development, informal settlements, and underprivileged groups that live in them. Development Workshop works in collaboration with local authorities, development cooperation partners, and private sector. Development Workshop signed a memorandum of understanding in 2018 with the local authorities in Caribbean, and they were allocated 301 urban in Extension 6, with varying sizes not more than 300 square meters. The total estimated cost for servicing one plot in phase 1, the 301 plots are divided into several phases. They are currently in their second phase. The second phase is underway. The first phase is the one that they've completed. And the estimated cost for servicing one plot in phase 1 was $91,031. The estimated subsidy was about $61,013 because they sell their plots for 30,000 Namibian dollars. As households are charged 30,000 for the service side. Buyers receive a plot with water and sewer. The land is not titled yet, but will be titled, and the cost will be covered by the local authorities, and the residents will not be charged anything extra. The third project is on Shackdwellers Federation of Namibia. SDFN relies on organized community participation in saving groups. Each group is in charge of its own savings account. When sufficient funds are available, the organization engages the local authorities to access land. Groups can borrow from the Tohangana Fund for housing construction and infrastructure installation. SDFN is supposed to be mainly community-led, but the topography of Caribib prohibited this from happening. SDFN in Caribib was allocated a block earth of 65 urban of 300 square meters each in extension 8 in 2017. Members received 36,000 from the Tohangana Fund for housing construction with 5% interest charge. Monthly repayments are 360 Namibian dollars, and the loan has to be fully paid in 20 years. The total cost of each partially serviced plot with a certificate of land occupancy is 30,832 Namibian dollars. The total cost of each starter house is 32,227 Namibian dollars. So that each house has a partially serviced site of is the cost of a partially serviced site is 63,060 Namibian dollars. Households that take a Tohangana loan receive up to 12,000 additional subsidy depending on the number of years required for repayment. The last project that we looked at was USAB Informal Settlement, UIF. The two main activities that have taken place in UIF are reblocking and the servicing itself. UIF has a total of 723 plots, and all these 723 plots have access to water currently, and materials for 460 plots have currently been purchased. Only 123 sewers have been installed as we speak. Namibia Housing Action Group, NAG, has provided support. The land servicing is mainly community powered. In many instances, female members undertake construction work. Some external help was required for excavation. As I mentioned before, the topography there's a lot of hard rock in Caribib, so it prohibits the servicing to be fully community-led. Servicing is underway for all the 723 plots. Subsidy finance is provided by the Ministry of Urban and Rural Development and by the Town Council and Osino Mine. The total cost of each plot is estimated to be 14,498.75 cents. Plot owners are charged 3,100. 1,200 for the plot itself to purchase the plot from the town council, and the rest is for the water meter. In terms of the subsidy contribution, the community labor or sweat equity was estimated to be 4,640.83 cents per plot. This is included in the 14,498.75 cents and represents a significant additional contribution from plot owners. I hope you can see the numbers. So this table summarizes findings with respect to subsidies. Subsidies are contributing to land and servicing for the most part. You will note that for NHE and SDFN are the only two projects that provide housing. And you will note that there wasn't any subsidy for NHE as their cost for construction exceeded the cost that is charged to the purchaser. For SDFN, the subsidy that was found is it includes an interest rate subsidy in the housing loan estimated to be 12,000, assuming the loan is paid within the 20-year period. For development workshop, as earlier mentioned, development workshop signed a memorandum of understanding with the Caribbean Town Council, um, which covered the cost of the virgin land, and as well as signing a memorandum of understanding with professional firms, which led to the lowered professional fee. As for UIS, the ministry's contribution being key to cover the cost, most of the cost for materials as well as the servicing itself, and the virgin land cost that was covered by the council, since they have reduced rates in the informal settlement. For sweat equity, community involvement was intended for both UIS and SDFN. However, the terrain in Caribbean prohibited this. Funds from the USAB informal settlements were redirected to the SDFN, to Extension 8 SDFN, for excavation, since it couldn't have been done by the community itself. They tried all they could, but then there was intervention that was needed. UIS heavily relies on community involvement. The community itself is involved in the installation of their pipes, water, sewer, everything. The subsidies in this case were in form of sweat equity, training, and management. Land allocation. In the cases examined, only NHE has undertaken titling and transfers. Others still allocate land without statutory transfers, potentially hindering titling due to the absence of sewerage. The statutory tenure was costly but became affordable for low-income households with flexible tenure system. This allows development to commence before the land transfer and titling, a practice not yet reached by developments under the system in Extension 8 and in UIS. The table below summarizes the affordability of the 4 projects. It's important when we're looking at affordability, it's important to look at both the absolute cost and the cost of repayment, as they're crucial in identifying whether a project is actually affordable to the lowest income household. While the product may be affordable in theory, the cost of repayment determines whether this is accessible to the lowest income group. And we found that NHE is not accessible while the rest are affordable. At the development workshop has development workshop sells their plots for 30,000, as earlier mentioned. But before the servicing starts, buyers need to pay off 30,000 in 14 months. So it only becomes affordable if individuals are assuming that they pay 1,500 per month. And last, the sources of subsidies for infrastructure. Central government support for infrastructure. In Namibia, local authorities seek central government support for capacity projects, including land servicing. These requests are reviewed based on merit, alignment with national goals, and budget availability. Funding is typically partial and provided as grants, aiming to enhance local authorities' financial sustainability, a challenge few have achieved. This, this government contribution acts as a unique and substantial subsidy for land servicing projects. The source of subsidies for infrastructure is sporadic contributions. Private sector donations, particularly those where the entity is not based within the vicinity of the project in question. For instance, in phase one of development workshop extension 6, B2 Gold made a donation for 8 plots. Just to wrap up, so we found that the role of government in providing subsidies is essential. Affordability should ensure housing costs remain below 1/3 of the household's income, achieved by Extension 8, SDFN, and UIS, but not Development Workshop and NHE. Extension 6, Development Workshop, achieves overall affordability, but faces challenges with the number of monthly repayments. NHE is less affordable to the lowest income groups, though it enhances bankability for private financing institutions. Central government subsidies are crucial due to the significant infrastructure funding requirements. We also found that international corporations, while marginal, brings professional support to projects. Namibia's living conditions in urban areas necessitate scalable options to address the crisis, and engaging the lowest income groups in co-funding and implementation appears to be a scalable solution, given the majority of Namibia's population falls into this category. Thank you so much.